but we're the ones who went, yep,
Yeah.
for some reason, yeah, I'll go down.
Yeah, and that's why also the girls said it's that we have like a certain type of protection. Like people will just it's a little bit more brutal one. Like the ancestors don't give a shit. They if you come for their, you know, the chosen ones for their for the ones that have to do the work, people will have a hard time messing around with you, and they will not stay long in your life.
All right, how you going, guys? Cambell here from Spiral Up channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And today we have a special guest. We have Lorra with us. Many of you know Lorra. If you don't, you'll meet her today. You're in for a treat. And she, of course, has her own channel called Lorra. So we'll leave the links to that below. And we're just going to have a chat and see where it goes, I think. It started off interesting. So, Lorra, welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice speaking again to you.
Yeah.
I think the last time or the first time was 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's been
and yeah, a lot of things have been happening in the world, and also I think in our personal lives for sure too.
It's bizarre how fast it's accelerating, isn't it? It's yeah. Definitely in the.
I'm definitely not the same person.
No, exactly. It's yeah, no, I don't think anyone's the same person anymore. It's just pretty intense, but definitely in some kind of end time or apocalypse. You were talking before we hit record. We had to hit record because you were saying some good stuff. You were talking about an angel book. Is that right?
Yeah. So I think it was it was the night of the Lions Gate portal.
Yep, the 8th, yeah.
And I had an interesting dream, and I heard the phrase, and this is the only phrase that I remembered basically. There was a bit of more personal context, but the interesting thing was they were talking, or someone was talking about holding the book of angels. And so when I thought I would, I instantly knew what this would mean for me, just like as a metaphor. But then I looked it up, and I did a couple of minutes of research, and I found this really interesting book that is called the Book of Raziel, which is one of the angels. Of the archangels, I think. And it's basically the base of the Kabbalah and the Torah, and it's a purely magical, mystical book. It's supposed to be the book that Solomon used for, building his temples. So it's very alchemical and very magical. And I read a little bit into it. I didn't understand shit. It's just you have to study, and they go into the words and the phrases and the different names. But basically, when I looked up a little bit of what was inside there, they were talking about Adam, and we can have a whole discussion on if Adam was a people or individual or whatever. But the interesting thing is that they were talking about Adam being 635 years when he got the book. And I was like, really interesting, a really pretty old dude.
Yeah.
635.
But so I think, what, when he got the angel book, they're saying Adam had this, or had this, not the angel.
Adam got the angel book.
Yeah. Wow.
Noah got it too, and I think Moses too. So it's basically a spell book, a book of how to manipulate this realm.
Yeah, like float arcs and build mega temples and things like that, maybe.
Yep, and how to summon different beings, to get some powers, and maybe to get knowledge also. So they said that this is like the scripture emerged around the 1300s. So it's like, you know, again, they're not on a one consensus if it's like authentic, but it's supposed to be the base for the Torah, for Kabbalah, mystical teachings. So I found that really interesting because I'm not into that kind of knowledge. I don't feel connected to that part. But yeah, sometimes I get these things that I need to look up, but it's really rare. So when I get them, I'm looking into them and I never heard of that one. And
No,
it's really
it's interesting that you
interesting.
say the 1300s too. Something was going on in the 1300s because that was also the Cathars when they all got wiped out, and the Linda book, is that how I say it? That was around that time as well, wasn't it? 800 years ago. So two major books and this Cathar thing, and the Cathars had a prophecy that 700 years later they'd be back, and that's now. It's actually this year. That was dated to a few days ago, I think. So there's all this weird stuff going on, isn't there?
Yeah, we're in a very interesting time period.
Yeah. Sorry, you go. Were you going to say something
just
or
on
not?
that note, because
You go.
all right. Just on that note about what you said about coming back, I've got a video recommended a couple of days ago, and I usually don't get any new stuff. Like the algorithm on YouTube is really lazy, and I'm also not being on there too much. But I got recommended a video by a young woman, and she was talking about the chosen ones, but she had a really interesting spin on it, what that meant for her. And she was basically she's working as a psychic. I think she's a young Black woman from America. Yeah. And she just casually did the video in her car recording herself, and she was talking about her initiation, like the process of her first initiation. And she was talking about the chosen ones in the concept that there are certain people that have been chosen by their lineage, by their ancestors, and like ancient ancestors, what we would probably call, you know, the one world civilization type people. To basically represent them in this time. So she said that they told her that we are basically not really part of the collective, and we have a completely different mentality. And that made so much sense to me, because when I was a child, I often, also into my teenage years, I often heard the phrase of, "You're the one, you're the one, you're the one." I'm like, yeah, but I'm probably not the only one. I always was cautious of, like, I don't want to fall into that, you know, like I have to like this Messiah complex thing.
Exactly.
So I always was arguing with that in my head, like, yeah, but I don't want to be the only. Can others be?
Surely there's
like
more.
it's a really tough burden.
Can't be
And
me.
in you know, in the context of that being the representative of your specific heritage, that made a lot of sense to me, especially when I this year discovered from my father's side from what kind of lineage I'm from, which I had no idea of. Excuse me. And basically, you know, the minions of the controllers, like the families that were put in place to have certain type of control, you know, connections with the Jesuits, then also in the 1800s, then setting up these model cities, you know, these whole villages that would do like the Industrial Revolution and stuff, connections to the church. So I found out that I'm from that type, from my father's side, and from my mother's side, I'm from a very psychic lineage. So yeah, that made a lot of sense to me, to like, you know, be this little spy and infiltrator to break up certain karmas from what has happened throughout
Yeah.
the bloodline.
Yeah, I actually chatted with someone this afternoon, Joe, and she's like a psychic as well. And she said kind of the same thing. She said she said it's like a soul family, and you're the one that got chosen to sort of come in and fix things, but they're sort of around you, you know, that they're sort of around you, helping you, and it's all part of it. But we're the ones who went, yep,
Yeah.
for some reason, yeah, I'll go down.
Yeah, and that's why also the girls said it's that we have like a certain type of protection, like people will just, it's a little bit more brutal one, like the ancestors don't give a shit. They, if you come for their, you know, the chosen ones, for their for the ones that have to do the work, people will have a hard time messing around with you, and they will not stay long in your life. And this is what I also had. I've been in such weird situations in my life because I was a bit too submissive with other people, a bit too nice, a bit too kind. And I got in weird situations, but I always got out of them, and I don't know how.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, I drove a car into a tree at like 70 Ks with no brakes and walked out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've done more than that too. Like I fell out of a tree like about 3 meters and landed on the ground and like turned my head. And next to me, there was a big cement slab, and I literally missed it by like inches. And yeah, I've done heaps of stuff because I was just stupid when I was young. I just did anything. And yeah, I was never hurt. I was just, everyone else would get hurt, but it's weird. And I've always felt, it's just, I've always, yeah, it just felt like almost like a voice saying, you know, you're protected. And so I just started saying it, but I'm protected, and I am, you know, just, and even to the point of, you know, like when the cops pull people over in that, I always get waved through. Like it's like they don't see me. It's just bizarre, but so it's an
Yeah,
interesting
it's like you're
concept, isn't
invisible.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And in that context of what, you know, the historical research that is being done, it makes a lot of sense that you need like a really strong person, someone who probably has also done work in his past lives, if you want to look at it from, you know, a linear thing, but who holds that type of personality that can endure a lot of pain, a lot of trauma, and become stronger through that and more empowered, basically, because they lived through it. They didn't give up, although they wanted to. And I for sure wanted to give up a lot of times in my life. It's like, I can't do this, I'm too weak, I'm not made for this world. But yeah, I made it through it, and I know it's like I can get through shit, and that's really, really empowering.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that's actually why I contacted you, is to talk about like empowerment. So yeah, that's a good point. You know, so yeah, what else do you think about? Because I was actually watching when you talked, did a video on the Oralinda book, and you were reading some of it, and you were just getting so into it because you could, you know, I don't know, what do you think that is? I think, you know, a lot of us have it because I've watched myself reading it too, and you read certain, you know, certain phrases, it's like rah, 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 rah. It's like it's, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
There's something in it. So yeah, I mean, I guess we've already answered, like, well, do you want to talk about walk-ins?
Yeah, sure.
And how that sort of fits in,
It's
because we have
it
all
has
these
come a little bit
stories.
into the back.
Sorry?
Sorry, we have a little bit of delay. Go on.
I was just going to say, because we've got all these, you know, prophecies. We've got right? The children of the rainbow, the indigo children. There's a Cathar prophecy that comes now, and, you know, the 144,000. And then there's this walk-in phenomena, and a lot of it's got to do with, there's also, what's her name? Cannon?
Dolores Cannon.
Dolores. Dolores Cannon, yeah, and she
Yeah.
regresses people, and they all say that they're here for a big event kind of thing, and so it's pretty interesting. So yeah, how do walk-ins fit into all this?
That's a good question. I don't think I have the full answer. At that time where that reality really became more dominant, and I think that was around a year ago. I think time is weird, but I had this realization that, or this feeling that, how to explain it, there was more of myself being integrated in the current soul. So it's like a fragment that has been living this life, but that fragment somewhat got, I think now when I look at it now, it's more like a transmutation. It's like a version of me, like someone would call like a higher self from another dimension or density, that got integrated into this body with the consciousness, with the awareness, with the memories. Because before I woke up about 5 years ago, I didn't had real memories or visions or like very intense flashbacks and understandings. I was always confused by this world, and I knew that it just doesn't really make sense. It was really weird, but I still tried to integrate myself into it. And when I made the decision that I won't do that, I'm gonna be brave, and I'm gonna go off and do my own thing and figure out things as I go along. There was a huge part that got integrated and more integrated from various different life forms or energy forms. But the specific walk-in that I would mark as like a walk-in, as a being in a physical body that transfers their soul energy or their consciousness into another realm. And I think it is through technology, but the process was spiritual. So from what I remember is that I got called spiritually, but I didn't trust necessarily the process because it is technologically done. And back then I was pretty sure of how this whole thing worked. Now I'm at the moment it got a little bit in the background because I already integrated that part. So it's now a part of the conglomerate of what I remember myself to be. But from what I've heard, walk-ins can occur in various different ways. And I would to kind of say it quite simply is that another being that has it's alive, that has a consciousness that is not as dimmed down as we are here, is coming into the awareness and melts, and kind of, it's like a shift, like a working shift. It's like you're just changing places, and the other part of you is then more dominant. And I think that also was what fired me up to start doing YouTube videos more.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it sounds like an upgrade, like a higher part of yourself or something is sort of coming in and downloading or something like that. It's interesting because and then we have the whole NPC phenomenon, and I've heard some people say that some of those are walk-ins too, as far as they're just vessels that people can, or that spirits can come in and inhabit, and jump in them and sort of do a shift, I guess. Come down and watch the fireworks.
Yeah, there's a term of the human being as a biosuit. I think at the moment that's pretty much accurate. I don't think that this was the origin. I do think that we stepped down from a higher density and created these bodies.
Yeah.
That also is way more empowering and way more, I don't know, that would make the, you know, the ancients, I think they would agree with that more, as just, you know, the human being is just like this bio zoo with like no history and no meaning. So I think it's a combination of both. But at the current time, I do think that a lot of people that we see walking around, and it always depends also on the perspective. But I do feel that if you, let's say a lot of the people that we see out there that we can't really feel that they're, you know, real, like with the certain awareness, certain history, but maybe soul history, maybe these are the people that came in as the new population in the 1850s, for example. So whatever their origin is, they don't have this energetic memory, but
Connection.
also, you
Yeah.
know, the cellular memory. So it's easier to push them out, and for
Yeah.
lower entities to then step in and create more chaos. Because that's what I see. For example, I see a couple of lights going around, and you see it in their eyes and how they experience life. But most people are just like blank and following a script.
Well, man,
And
bloodlines are
yeah,
interesting,
that's
aren't
what I
they?
would say about it. Hmm?
Bloodlines, you mentioned before, bloodlines. It's like, oh, we know all the, you know, people who want to be rulers and all that. We know about their bloodlines and how important it is to them. I mean, I think they've taken it a bit, a bit too far in some places, but it's interesting that, you know, like soul memory and cellular memory, because I don't know, it's just been popping up lately that in things I've seen that yeah, that like lineage is like in bloodlines, like the souls of soul families sort of stay in certain bloodlines. I just so yeah, that's really because I have
Yeah, I
no
think it's
idea
like
what my bloodline is because I'm apparently from convicts. That's all I get.
a
I'm from slaves.
I- yeah, I don't think it's like that specific anymore, because I do think that strong souls can walk into a lot of different bodies, but still there is a connection between DNA and let's say an incarnation cycle, I
Yeah.
would say. So I do think that somewhere in the history, and they did a lot to confuse, you know, original people that were here before another people got integrated into this realm. So I do think that in the way that it is in for the negative entities important, I do think that for the positive people here, it also can play a role, because it is connected to memory of what was here before. Even if we don't have like a mental memory of it, we feel
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
That's why we get so emotional when we read things like the Oil Linda, because we feel truth. You
Mm.
cannot um, have that as you know, an intellectual thing. It's something that you feel, and that you feel
Yeah.
in your body, because you know the difference energetically. And I think that comes from ancestors, you know, like way back,
Mm.
way back.
I mean,
But certainly,
I'm just wondering if that's it. If it's because you know the you know those who wish to rule us like guard their bloodlines, but then they do their best to mess with ours. You know, like all this immigration and that, and mixing people. They just want to mix, but keep themselves pure. So I wonder if it's somehow that some of us got through with a you know a sort of pure or fairly pure bloodline, and so we have the memory. I don't
yeah,
know.
and I think not even pure, if that's just a part where you have a strong soul that is linked through that distant part, I would
Mm.
say that's even enough. um but yeah, there was, I think, also the Oil Linda, but I heard it from different psychics also, is that one of the things for the assholes here is that they want to destroy the very old bloodline, the old connection to the mystical families that did this shamanic work over hundreds and thousands of years. And yeah, so I do think that this is one of their goal, is to disconnect us from the lineage of the human being.
Which is why they've hidden our past. You know, that's just been destroyed, hasn't it? It's just like, that's why they attack it. They don't want us to know where we came from. And
yeah,
I mean, if you read the Aurolinda book, it pretty much explains what happened, and we can see where that's all got to. I mean, so what are your thoughts on what's going on at the moment in the big wide world?
What are my thoughts? So what I did for the past, I think, 2 or 3 months is basically what you wanted to talk about, and that is, the self-empowerment, the inner power. I was so agitated, especially when I'm looking into the history and what has been destroyed and how ridiculously evil it is. I got so agitated that I just felt, all right, I need a break, and I need to get really heavy into embodying peace within myself, and therefore, manifest it in my near future, and therefore in the near future for people around me. So I'm kind of aware of what is happening. But my boyfriend made a really interesting thing, because sometimes, I will talk about, because especially I have a look at what is happening in the UK and America and stuff like that on all kind of different levels. And he was like, yeah, but it doesn't happen. It isn't happening here. Like, is it happening in your day-to-day life? And I'm like, nah, actually not. So I allowed myself for the past 2 months to kind of relax, because I feel, as maybe, weird as it sounds, I feel like I have accomplished my mission over the past 5 years. The people that I wanted to touch, or the people that I wanted to touch their lives, I hope this makes sense. I met them, and they were especially children that I had contact with. And so yeah, I think we're witnessing like the end period of a dark age, and it's different than I thought it would be, honestly. I don't think it will play I don't think it will play out as how they want us to believe it will play out. I think it will be way less dramatic, although it already is dramatic, but it has been for the past couple of thousands of years. So when I was getting into the, in the research early on in, it's going to shift, reality is going to shift, society is going to break basically. I knew that it's gonna take a while, and there was this, this pressure of, especially from the spiritual community, from the New Age community, that we will just gonna ascend, and then one day we pop out, and it's gonna be 5D, and the others will die, and we will be like ascended, and everything will be great. And I was like, yeah, but maybe that's gonna take a couple of 100 years. No, maybe
we don't know. Let's hope not.
Even to build this, then.
Well, this is the thing.
Yeah, I hope not.
When we get through this, we're really just at square one, aren't we? We've got to start. Then we've got to start to build our reality, because that's the thing. It's not like we're going to walk in and there's going to just be fields of abundant, fruit and, free houses everywhere. And, we're going to have to get out and work.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be for next generations also, something. But it's also, I think 5D for me is, and I've heard this, funnily, funny enough, in the past couple of months is it's a mental state. It's the way that you carry yourself, that you go out into the world. And I think I've heard in the beginning of the year, or a couple of months ago, I don't remember, the topic or the theme of this year for the world, but also for a lot of people in their personal life, is betrayal. So the world is going to find out even more that they have been betrayed in every aspect. So that was something in my personal life this year too. And not even that, but also to accept that I have to find peace where I am, or where I have been led, just like the physical, like the city that I'm in, and then that can ripple out and manifest in my own personal life. So I think what I'm really focusing on at the moment is to manifest a peaceful future within the next year, 6 months, year. And then from that state of being, I'm gonna go forward with whatever it is that I feel like needs to be done. But I also think that a huge mass of people awaken, even if it's just intuitively. I think we were already over the tipping point. And yeah, it's gonna be scalar. It's gonna be very different for all kinds of different people, because we also have lived different lives. We all have different comfort in how we were raised or where we grew up. So I think for the toughest of us, those who have gone already through a lot of trouble and came out on the other side, it will not be as dramatic as long as we don't focus on this too much, on the stupidity of what is happening, because the stupidity was there before. It just now gets like, it levels up day to day.
Yeah, I think it's just going mad just so, it's trying to wake up as many people, as it can.
Yeah.
Like the universe.
Yeah,
I think
it is part of the mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost as well.
It has to become really absurd.
If you look at the AI sort of aspect too, it looks like, literally there is a virus, but it's a good virus shutting down all this, because it's like where did all these books come from? Like the Linda book and all these they've just popped up out of nowhere. All this old stuff, all these maps, all this information. It's just all going. We could already be in 5D, whatever that, but we're just going to have to live into it a bit to sort of find out what it is. Like you say, it's all a mental thing, isn't it? We've got to get there mentally and focus on what we want as far as, peace and harmony.
And it's a personal thing too.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. If you got to start at home, right? And then you can affect other people, and then you've got groups and they can affect more people, and just be a virus of good. Be the antivirus.
Yeah, definitely. Because I try to not to forget that I'm also, although I'm not of this world, I'm also a part of me still in this world and also of this world. So I try to embrace that 3D human self too, but in a more fun way. In a really more fun way. So what I have been doing just the last two months is like I've been a lot out in nature, and because I know in the beginning of the year, because I didn't want to come back to the city that I'm at right now, and I didn't want to come back, and I really didn't want to come back, but things haven't worked out, or well, they worked out as they should have, and I came back and I was in shock. I was like, this 3D is just it was like a really hard punch in the face. But I was like, all right, what are we going to do with this? Why not use this situation to basically push back, in the sense that even if I'm here and even if I really don't want to be here, I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to find a way to still have joy and pleasure and create it in my daily life. And this is something something that I have finally achieved, and that is inner peace in the place that I have expected it the least. So yeah, that was really something that surprised me. But I was like, okay, if I have to accept it. Also something about this inner power that I made. Hold on, I made a note. Is that I have a plan. That's something that I had to, fake it till you make it in the beginning, like a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. I trusted that I've had a plan. There are many variations with the decisions that we make, and sometimes I dip into the negative parts and go out of that. But I ultimately have a plan. So wherever life is leading me, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And that kind of worked out
Hmm.
really, really well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if
Which
you,
doesn't mean that I don't go through shit, but I can handle
yeah.
it better now.
Yeah, well, if you know where you're going, it gives you confidence, doesn't it? I think that's a problem with most people is they walk around in circles. They've got no direction. They don't know where they want to go. And the thing is with finding out what you want to do or what direction or whatever, if you nothing jumps out at you, you just start with something. And when you're bored, change. It'll pop up. But most people just are like, I'll just sit down and watch Netflix. But yeah. So I think inner power has got a lot to do with just knowing yourself and understanding that everyone ultimately is here for a reason. And it's a pretty epic time to be here. So we're all pretty lucky to be here to see this. We're all. It's not a normal time in history, that's for sure.
No,
So
no. We're in the between times. We are literally in the twilight zone, I think. And that's a really interesting place to be.
mm,
Also, I had a conversation with a friend of my partner. We were just hanging out somewhere and having a glass of wine, and we were starting to talk about past lives, and I shared what I know about soul jumping and that you can repeat your life, and basically you can jump you can jump forward and backward in time with your incarnations, all this kind of stuff. And I found his reaction really interesting because we were talking about stuff like Reiki and something before, and we don't know each other very well. But his first thing was to say, "Oh, please, can I come back?" Because I said, "You can also repeat this life, if you have some business unfinished from the timeless space, you can jump back in." And he, yeah, can I please just come back in, but have like just little things changed. And I found it interesting that he started with asking for permission if he could please go
yeah,
back.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Found
It's
that
like
really curious.
yeah, it's when they do they were doing marches in London and everyone was chanting freedom, and I was just sitting there just thinking, what? What do you mean? What are you asking for it? I mean, you don't ask for freedom, right? It's like, what are you doing? You are free. Hello. But they're all sitting there sort of, and it's just so weird because, they think they're out there standing in their power but they're so controlled. They're still in the system. They're still asking for permission. Can we have our freedom now, please?
It's,
That's no,
yeah,
you
yeah,
take
but I
it.
think it's something like a growing pain. A lot of people have to go through this. I mean, I remember when I grew up, is that people would say freedom does not exist, peace does not exist, even at within yourself. It is this very cynical,
Hmm.
bitter perspective on life, and I get that because life hurts. But yeah, it's not very healthy. But I think they have to go through this. We are the crazy ones that don't get why we have to pay taxes for everything, and why we have to abide by the rules if the people who are imposing those rules don't follow these rules. So it's a circus. But we just grow up like that, you know.
Yeah, and I think
Do as
that's
you're told. That's how it works. It's fine. It's not perfect, but it works. I was like, no, it actually doesn't work.
just don't rock the boat. It's fine. No, it's not fun. We have to rip rip it down. But this is the thing, like you say, you know, it's people have been slaves for so long. They're finding their power. They're just sort of stumbling through it. But I see this as like collectively, you know, growing up. You know, it's like the collective consciousness is sort of like, you know, 20 and sort of turning 21 and maturing, and we've got to grow up and leave home, like as far as, you know, take control of our own lives and let mummy and daddy, you know, the controllers, you know, just tell them, well, you don't control me anymore. I'm all grown up now. So it is, yeah, it's finding our
And
power.
there's also a lot of people like us in different variations, people who what I've heard is that a lot of court cases are being opened up, and you know, all the sort of different levels of people are now getting into the flow of doing things, and everybody has their own section or area of society where they're gonna do stuff. So I'm really positive and I'm really hopeful about that. Also, what I see out in the streets, the hysteria has somewhat, well, in the place where I am at, you know, went down. People are just not obeying by the rules. They're not really enforcing whatever rules they were or are. There are some things that are concerning, of course, but this world has been so perverted that we have to go through these tribulations now. There was no way around. We're already in it, so we just better, you know, have our fun with it as much as we can, although of course it is tough.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I hope we'll rise up and you know, all these you know, black controllers, all they can stay down in their low energy vibration. And because, yeah, I mean, things are definitely changing, and there is a lot going. I think there's a lot's going to happen in the next month or so. Did you see Cuomo, governor of New York, resigned today? So there's
nipple piercings. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it.
Yeah.
I think it's time now for the minions to fall. I think the big players, honestly, are not really in control, like here in the Earth realm anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, like, do you think that they've gone? Because what's happened to, you know, all these people, like the Queen has disappeared, and all these sort of higher up people. I mean, not that we ever saw them, but I don't know. It's almost like they've left a skeleton crew or something, isn't it? And just to sort of try and keep us in fear and piss us off as long as they can, just because they can.
Yeah, it feels like it, and it looks like it from the information that I get from what I see, you know, people put out that I respect. It really looks like, because also the way it is handled, they're not the dictators that we had like maybe 100 years ago or 50 years ago. It's not that serious, that competent evil of an energy. It's like totally craziness, but it's not really sophisticated. That's why we have like this weird stuff going on with you know, enforcement and then people leaving and stuff. So I do think, and I do feel that time's up. A lot of them are gone. I don't know what version I'm really buying. I don't think I have to, but I do feel that as the frequency, the collective frequency is changing, it's not compatible anymore. And 1 year ago I heard this and I was like, yeah, that's a really nice of a statement, but now I see it. As you said, those people are nowhere to be found. They were like paraded as these big, you know, cruel, evil evil players, but they are from the lower ranks, because the higher ups, we will, like you said, we don't know who they are. They would never show their faces to us. So yeah, I think the minions are in trouble right now, and they're being bitch slapped all over.
I think that's what's happening. Like, you know, the vibrations rising, and some people, they're just disappearing. I mean, I wonder if it's all happened already, and we're just looking at NPCs and skeleton crews, and there's because, you know, if you've got 7 billion people, but only, you know, whatever, 1 billion or 500 million, you know, sort of get the frequency and rise up, you'd all be pretty lonely, you know. So maybe this is just a show and it's going to sort of get us through and change over the next whatever. I mean, it's just so weird. Like, we're literally living in prophecy times. I didn't see it like this.
Big theater play, a big movie. This is also what I heard, and I do feel that is pretty accurate, is that the movie is playing out for the masses, especially. To push their buttons. Not all are going to get it, but it's not our job to take everybody. And it's not, this is what I talked about the last video that I uploaded, is that everybody has their own decision to make, and we don't know how real the people who are still doing this, how real they are. Certainly we will not, you know, how to say, leave them behind or something. But it's also not in our personal life. Like, I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but yeah, I do think it's a big movie that is playing out to push the masses to a certain, you know, over the edge. And yeah, it's really interesting. I'm way more optimistic and way more hopeful than I was, I don't know, 6 months or 1 year ago. It shows why this had to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was funny when it started, like everyone was like, oh, this sucks. And then like within a few months, everyone was like, oh, well, the vaccinated could just die, stuff. But it just changed so quickly. But I mean, this is the thing. I mean, everyone's got choice. And if we can't, you know, if they're choosing to stay around, well, they're choosing to stay around. We've got to sort of put our energy into what we want, rather than looking at what we don't like and what we don't want. So
yeah, and what we have in our life and what surrounds us. And yeah, I think that's really the only thing that we can actually do, like the embodiment of the higher self. And that is like bringing that state of being into physicality, into the day-to-day life, and becoming more powerful through that. And I think because a lot of people are doing that, even if they're not in some, you know, alternative specific sections, but the general spiritual trend on healing your trauma, on balancing the masculine and the feminine, things that we have done a couple of years ago, most of us, a lot of young people are doing that too. And the lockdowns have helped with that also. And also what I found really interesting is that a lot of people who were like, especially young people who were like, get the jabs, you know, do as you're told. A lot of them were worried about their family members because they were sick, for example. So there are a lot of different reasons for people to cling on to the official narrative. So I don't think it's like that black and white, but I do feel that sooner or later, you know, when that is out of the way, I think we want to come together, and we don't want to fight with each other anymore. And because of the online fights that have been going on with especially the younger generations in the last 1.5 years, people are getting tired of that, because it's going nowhere.
Yeah, it's just funny how fast it's changed. No one's watching movies anymore. Like, Hollywood's crashing. Like
they're dead.
They're dead. All the news stations are dead. You know, like no one's watching them. It's just clown world. But you know, I mean, it's just.
But also, what I some of the Hollywood stuff that is coming up, some of the movies are also big truth bombs.
Yeah, I've
Their
heard.
quality in like writing is going down, but it's like they're also like part of the movie and actually like even more exposing like the dark side of stuff that has been going on. So that's also really interesting. But yeah,
It
it's like
is. That's why I think it,
nobody watches movies anymore.
No, I heard the next Marvel one's like a real truth bomb, and heard someone saying that they followed the Marvel movies, and it's like a big story. If you put it all together, they're basically telling you what's going on. But truth bombs in movies are just everywhere, isn't it? But I mean, and the
secret stuff, they're really like it.
We don't even see the actors or anything anymore. It's just so bizarre. It's like they've left 3 or 4 to sort of yell at people on Twitter, and the rest have all gone. It's just so.
It's all kind of. It's like a distillation. Where it comes down to the really important stuff. We had like so much access in this modern society to like endless pleasure and endless endorphin hits, and now it's kind of it's kind of becoming a little bit more like, what are the basics, what are the really important basics for every one of us? And I think that it has been quite a positive
I mean, I think that
what we have gone through.
We've got this food shortage coming up, but that's the thing. I mean, it'll teach people to go and grow their own food, won't it? So, and it really is like, it's just like the world just teaching people to grow up, grow up. Can you feed yourself? Have you got a house? Like, and getting away from relying on the government. And then at the same time, like you say, all this stuff about the government saying, look at this, look what they do, look what they do. So it's, I don't see, I think it's going to, parabolic curve, right? We've got to be pretty close to the point where it just goes whoomp and everyone wakes up, because it's just madness. Don't know what to say.
A lot of it has already happened, but it's like but there are like so many people that it looks kind of these pockets of people,
Yeah, this is the thing.
I do believe that it is way more.
Because most of the cities, when you get footage, they're still empty, but you see people online. But I mean, how much of a movie is this? How many people are really out there? I mean, I see them when I go out there, but it's just sort of, and I think anything goes at this point. We just don't know. There might only be 2 of us left. We might be the only 2 left, Laura. Everyone else is gone. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Who knows?
Who knows? For sure. Oh, someone's messaging me. Cool.
But definitely what I see is that the younger generation, like the teenagers, they look so much different, so much different than, let's say, their, it's say the 15-year-olds look very much different from the ones who are now like 50, around 50, especially in my area. The woman around 50 here, but also I have to say, we are a little bit back in time. It's like when I came here, I was like time traveling, because the Soviet Union is only like 40 years back in time. So it's a little bit of a time slip here. But just from the genetical expression and also energetic wise, the I would say men and women around 60, 50, a lot of them, I would say 80%, look the same. They have the same haircut, they have the same clothes, they have the same body types. 70%, 80%, yeah, definitely. They look all the same. And the younger people, not so much. Yes, you also have, the collective there, but I see way more individual expressions of souls or genetics, however you want to call it.
Wow.
So I think that's super interesting. I don't think that the younger generations are anywhere near to people before them. I don't know how Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're going to be, if you're talking ages, they're going to be Aquarians, right? And we just come out of Pisces, and Aquarians are complete different. They're a different makeup. They're like us. It's like, what rules? What rules? Who are you talking about? Go away. Whereas Pisceans, what's that? Whereas Pisceans are the masses. They're the ones that love the rules. Oh, should I do this now? Should I do this now? And they love all that. They love the system and all that. But so the Aquarians are coming through, and obviously, some came through earlier, but all these younger generations, they're going to be Aquarians, so they're going to be a different makeup. So it's going to change anyway, because the whole mentality is
going to change anyway.
Freedom.
In the next 20, 30 years, humanity will not be the same at all.
It'll be nothing. Yeah.
All. There's too much individuals now.
Yeah. And that's the difference too, as well, isn't it? It's like Pisces was collective, like the Borg, and tracking and keeping everyone under wraps and that. But Aquarius is the complete opposite, which is why it's such a split too. It's not like a little move. It's like we're just like flipping their reality on its head. It's like, you're done. Go away. Yep. They're scared to have choice.
I mean, and the Piscean, and they had also reason to be more, collective, because they had a certainty in their lives. Like, you can, work with your colleagues in an industrial building and produce something, and you will have a decent life. Even though the world was still a mess, but you will have sort of a decent life. And the generations now is like uncertainty everywhere, incompetence everywhere. It's like, all right, then we're gonna have to do it on our own.
Imagine if you
I'm not really looking forward to that.
Imagine if you graduated from university last year. You'd be just like, oh my God, what do I do now? Or high school, and you wanted to go to uni. There's no point, because no one knows what industries are going to be around, and it's just madness. So that must be interesting for them. But at the same time, that'll push innovation. That'll push them to make their own businesses and go. And that's what we need. Get away from this BlackRock, who owns everything. Get back to individualism.
Definitely.
Cool.
And then we can come back as a collective together, because we will trust ourselves. We will be self-empowered. And I do think it's going to take a while to sort things out, especially in different types of cultures around the world. But in general, I'm really happy that I was right in that shit's gonna hit the fan, and you better develop a relationship with your intuition and become brave, because you will not have a map how to navigate. You need to use your own compass and your inner compass. And you're gonna fall down and make mistakes and stuff like that, but this is something that no one can take away from you. So
exactly, it's all learning. It's all growing, isn't it? And if you look at it that way, then you get stronger. If you look at it like, oh, the world hates me, then obviously you don't. It's all a choice, standing in your power. And I think the biggest thing is just having the courage to take the first step, just in whatever direction. Just take a step and do something. And when you do it, you'll go, wow, I did that, and you'll feel more powerful. And also knowing yourself, of course, and understanding that the universe does have your back. When you understand that it's all a game, and we create the reality, and the universe has got your back. Well, you can do whatever you want pretty much, can't you? As long as you hurt no other, you've got free reign, So it's all...
Yes, and there are way more examples of that is now accessible on the internet, of people doing that. So it's also way more grounded now, because you have examples. When I was a teenager, like I said, people were telling me that peace doesn't exist, that freedom is an illusion and stuff like that. Very cynical, very numb. So that has been a real blessing
Yes.
Although it's a crazy place,
No,
but it's still,
it
it
is.
has made, it has opened up the new dimension, a new way of learning.
Mm. Oh, everyone's definitely grown in the last year. Ah, gosh. Never thought
Oh,
it would be
yes.
like
Oh,
this,
yes.
but it's all good. Go the Aquarians. Here we come. Bugger off, Pisceans. It's our world now.
Yes, yes.
Definitely. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and having a chat with us. That was really cool. We'll talk again soon.